my health care because I got to pay the copay. And I think to myself, I'm like, shit, they can't fix my problem. Doctors told me 20 years ago they can't fix my problem. Doctors told me 5 years ago they can't fix my problem. Doctors told me 3 years ago, wait until you can't stand the pain anymore and then we'll do surgery. What the fuck am I going to a doctor for? Can't do shit but give me drugs, and then the drugs that you're going to take is going to make you inebriated. You can't function on a day-to-day basis, which means you can't earn a standard of living. You can't operate heavy machinery because even though you don't drink alcohol or smoke weed, you still can't take prescription medication and then drive yourself anywhere. So that compromises your entire standard of living. I'm like, fuck it, I'll deal with the pain. And that's why we talk about these things, because then on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I give you guys information about your decision making processes, ways that you can make better choices in life that doesn't cost you as much money. Because sometimes a conflictual relationship, y'all buying each other gifts to say I'm sorry, you wasting money to say I'm sorry for trinkets that are gonna. If you get a dopamine hit because your partner got you a gift, that you're lucky, because sometimes you're so pissed off at them, I don't give a fuck what you buy me, that don't make up for the fact of what you did last night. You know what I mean? And they wasting money on that kind of stuff. And I'm like, damn, y'all could change the way y'all talk to one another. Y'all could change the way y'all behave, the way y'all treat one another, and save money on buying each other bullshit ass gifts that y'all don't really need, right? And then put that money somewhere else where y'all can stop being broke, because half the time, more than half the time, like 68% of the time, y'all fighting about money anyway. He at work too much because he making money. She ain't never home because she's at work when he's off. Somebody spent something on something that they didn't plan, and these are the fights that happen in relationships outside of the infidelity and outside of the lack of value of men and everything to that effect. Most of the fights in a relationship is about money. But if there was more money coming in than you needed, y'all would have less fights about money. You know what I mean? If it, no matter humanity, we fight about the shortage of resources, no matter how much of a surplus we have. So if there's more than what both people need, there's nothing to fight about. And that's why we talked about yesterday about how America just went over there and took 18% of the world's oil. It's 18%. It's not all of it, but it's the largest majority that's available that's not owned by another country. Right now, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, while we tell you guys about how to improve yourself, networking skills, relationship skills, other such stuff. This week we're going to be talking about how a couple can do it and make themselves a millionaire inside of 10 to 20 years. Um, we also give you guys information on how to improve yourselves on your job, how to improve your communication with your boss, all of these other things, which would make things better for you. Then on Sunday we do questions and comments from the fans. I see Samuel up here. RIP Kevin Samuels, you need one of those moving things in the background. I like that. I don't have anything moving in the background. I'm sitting in front of a window right now. I got blackout drapes so that you can't tell if it's daytime or nighttime. And then I got spotlights on the ceiling so that you can see my face in this dark ass room. But yes, I have always thought about upgrading the background for the podcast, but again, that costs money. And before I put money into the podcast, I think it would be more effective for the podcast to generate profits that would pay for the upgrades. But yes, yes, I've seen some of Kevin Samuel's shows. I've seen a lot of stuff on his channel, and I think that he is a very brilliant man, and he presents the information a whole lot better than Myron does with Fresh and Fit, where it's not uh, aggressive in attacking other people, but at the end of the day, it does put everything together, uh, where people can understand the differences of things. Because when women think about it only from their perspective, they don't understand a man's point of view. But when you put the woman's opinion into the man's point of view, or put the man's opinion into the woman's point of view, then women start to realize that, oh, that's why the men are not behaving the way I expect them to behave, right? And that could save her money. You know, is it what's your day job? I got a lot of day jobs. Actually, technically, I actually don't have day jobs. I have night jobs because after this podcast, I work overnight with the clients that I have in Asia. So because I work off the computer. So I do some work with American clients, but the majority of my client base is in Asia. It's overnight. So from like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning until like 9 o'clock in the morning, I work with other clients. And then I have my daytime to myself when I'm not dealing with family issues and stuff to that effect. But one of the things we want to talk about today, because you guys might see those headlines everywhere, like how I built $1 million portfolio from nothing. Invest your way to financial freedom on just $50 a week. And you've probably thought to yourself, sitting at your kitchen table after a 10-hour shift, looking at a pile of bills, that somehow this seems larger than your paycheck, right? And can a normal person actually do that? Can someone without a trust fund or a six-figure tech job really build meaningful wealth? And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to get into this information with you today, because I figured it out. He said, get a white sheet and paint on it. Hang that behind you. It needs something bright and fun. And no, I'm not doing that. If I'm gonna do that, I might as well just waste money on a green screen and then put a um green screen setups up here from StreamYard so that y'all watching a movie in the background while I'm talking to y'all on the podcast or something. But I'm not gonna to paint on the white sheet. The heckling that I get with the simple minded people that tell me to take a fake book off of the bookshelf behind me. Could you imagine the heckling I would get if there was like a tie dye sheet behind me? I mean, for real. He's an Asian dating service. Actually, I'm not. If I was an Asian dating service, I would have two or three Asians reaching over me to grab my drink and fill it up with something else so that I got something to drink for the show since I didn't fill my cup with coffee today. You know, I'd be able to, I told you so, because you can actually get an Asian woman for between $500 and $800 a month to do more for you 30 days out of the year than what you can get an American woman to do for you in 10 years. I'm just saying, I ain't trying to bash y'all ladies. I'm just telling you. I'm being honest, you know, because when a man dates a woman in the United States, it's anywhere between 50 and $300 a night to entertain her. That has nothing to do with her doing anything for him. If that happens 3 nights a week or 3 nights a month, that's $1,000 out of the month. He got to see her for 2 to 6 hours out of the month. And the whole time, all he did was make her smile. That's it. That's it. She did nothing for him, but he made her smile. But $500 to $800 a month, it- go to the Philippines. She cooking for you, taking care of your daddy, taking care of your dogs, taking care of your kids, doing everything that you need. I'm just trying to tell you, rebuilding stuff from the ground up, fixing a car, working on the motorcycle. I'm trying to tell you that this is different stuff, but that's not what we're talking about today. Are you living your life with Jesus' words in your heart? Well, actually, I live my life telling you that Jesus' words out of my mouth, like we talked about yesterday, that y'all need to be able to behave a little bit better towards one another, because if you did, then you wouldn't have so much strife in your life. But you're taking it to a different topic because we're talking about money today. We're not talking about God. Get a marker or a white name on it. No. If anything, I'll get one of those glass neon billboards with the LED lights and stuff on it, and put that on behind me so that the name of the show is in the background so everybody know what the hell we're watching right now. That's what I would do if I'm going to waste money, but that's a waste of money. Now, back to the main topic. The internet is full of gurus that are selling dreams of easy passive income and early retirement. And I'm going to tell you right now, the truth is that you're not going to find early retirement. You're going to find a 20-year plan that you might be able to retire in 10 years if you do it right. But you might want to double down on that situation where you retire with an upgraded lifestyle in 20 years. Because if you retire from 10 years, you will only be keeping your lifestyle the exact same way, short inflation, without seeing any improvements. But if you rode that wave for 20 years, you would be making enough money to get yourself to a status where you can upgrade from a lower income status to a middle income status scenario. Now, I don't know who Tony Signs are. No, and if you don't know what the name of the show is, Michael, you need to go sit down somewhere. Alzheimer's is kicking in. Are you retired? I just told you that I work. I told you I got a contract. Uh, What? Oh no, I'm not gonna sell crypto. You one step away from me blocking you off of this show, boy. You gonna be talking nonsense. First of all, I am not gonna sell anybody nothing. Second of all, I'm gonna tell you exactly how good it is for you to be able to put your money in the right spot, so that if you decide to do so, that you could actually make it without having to struggle working for somebody else your whole life. Now you ain't gotta take my advice because you're not giving me $1 a day. If you join the membership, one of the cheapest memberships we got is $3 a month, which will give you more financial information from this podcast than what you would get from a financial advisor at $350 an hour. So, you benefit from sitting here talking to me. You know what I mean? Because you can fact check my information because I've got Michael here. I've got Jolan coming on the show from time to time. I got Steven on here. These folks Google in the middle of the show and will put facts up there. So I can't be wrong. You know what I mean? I can't be wrong because somebody will make sure that they come and correct me. But if I was ever wrong on this show, but it ain't likely that it's going to happen on this show. You know what I mean? Because I do detailed information, I do curated information every day. And after I finish doing my research and I bring it to the show, I tell you guys how to make yourselves a millionaire. This is how you can make yourself financially successful. So if you don't want to stay broke, I don't care. You know, because I'm going to do what it takes. Where I will be able to not have to do what I don't want to do within the next 10 to 15 years. He said, put that money in my pocket. What's wrong with working a regular W 2 job? Nothing. Outside of, here's a good, I love that question. I'm going to allow that question. Here's the thing. Um, what's wrong with the regular W 2 job is that technology is booming in the United States and it's booming all over the world, as a matter of fact. And while technology is getting better, technology is replacing human workers. So, in those high paying $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 jobs, technology is replacing the workers. So, you go from having a job security position, $250,000 a year for the last 10 years, and you and 55 other people got fired because of new software that got launched that can do your jobs for you. That is the reason why I'm teaching you guys that you need to find an alternative. You have to always have a backup plan. Yeah, you can have a stable 401k. Yeah, you can always have benefits. And you also at the same time can have stock in the company. But you know what? If you get fired off of your job, if you get terminated and you don't negotiate a good severance package from that job, you could lose all of the money that is tied into that job. You can lose the stock options. You can lose any 401k money that's not separated from the job. A Roth IRAs, anything that is linked to the job, you could lose that stuff if you don't talk about a good severance package with that company. So at the end of the day, when you sit over here and think, oh well, I'm doing good, but then the 76% of Americans make less than 100,000 a year. I don't know why you want to struggle for 50 years because we're not getting any younger. We're not getting any younger at all. And the average life expectancy is starting to get closer and closer to 100 years old. So if you're 30, 40, 50 years old right now, you still have 70, 60, 50 more years left to live. And do you really want to work for somebody else for 65 hours a week for the next 55 years? I don't. I don't. I don't want to work 40 hours a week for myself. At the end of the day, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all what's going on. No, I've never been wrong. The only time you corrected me was about when Old Spice was created and who it was created for. Outside of that, I have not been wrong. What if I'm in a job that's building the tech? You'll get fired after your tech gets launched. I just covered that in October and November and December about how 200,000 people got fired after they launched software in their company that did their job better than them. If you create something the same way they created a machine to make the railroads and they got rid of Johnny Appleseed or what was that guy, the Man of Steel or whatever, you know, the fact is when they create technology that can do the job of 100 men, they fire 100 men. You create a software that can do the job of 50,000 men, they fire 50,000 men. They will keep one or two guys there to manage the software, and then everybody else loses their job. Yes, invest in data storage and oil. See, listen to Michael now. He's following the information that we talk about on the show. And if y'all not paying attention, y'all could be missing out on investment opportunities because we actually hold all of the stocks that are the most undervalued stocks on the market on this podcast, going across the bottom of the screen for 16 by 9 and across the top for 9 by 16. 401k money gets vested after 3 to 5 years after working for a company. Okay, and that doesn't change anything about the fact that the amount of money that you're putting away on your 401k is limited, and even if your job matches you 100%, it's still limited. You're not putting away 50,000 a year through a 401k. So even if it's all vested, if you make it to that 3 to 5 years, because if you're on the job for 2.5, 2.9 years, it's not vested. You end up in another situation. You just got to understand. He's I'm creating software that's getting people fired. Yes, if you create software, you're creating software that gets people fired. There you go. And I'm teaching people that you can not only work for yourself, you can put money aside so that you can put the money towards your long-term retirement. So when you get tired of working for the boss and talk shit to you, you can give him the Austin 316s and you can throw up those middle fingers and walk off the job, and you don't got to worry about, oh, I need this job, please don't fire me, I'll do whatever you want kind of behavior. Fuck this shit, I don't need this job. I make more money to sit at my house. Fire me, I will get my unemployment, workers compensation, and everything to that effect. The boss is talking shit. You pull all your stocks out, you cancel everything that's attached to the company, you redirect all of your efforts somewhere else. And then when they decide to give you that notice, because they're not going to give you a pink slip, they're going to pull you into the office and they're just going to drop this bomb at you. And we're just going to have to let you go, or they're going to suspend you, put you on leave uh, until further notice with no further notice. And if you're suspended without pay, that's just like being fired. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of ways that you can get kicked off your job. And we're going to talk about ways that you can make money while you still got a job, so that when that does happen, you're still making enough money. Because if you were listening to me when I was talking to y'all about this over a year and a half ago, those folks that got furloughed would have had plenty of money coming in, so that when they spent that month and a half without a job, without pay, that they would still have money coming from a second scenario that's not their husband, that's not their wife, that's not their children, that would have covered their standard of living, where they would not have had to borrow money or have late payments or deal with maxed out credit cards for 2 months, ruining their credit and interfering with their ability to make themselves financially successful in the long run. They do get tired. Actually, you have to reboot them all the time. I reboot my computer every day, but that does not change the fact that if one person's rebooting the computer every day, then that means that the whole scenario, that everybody else is still fired. What are you saying people do? It doesn't matter well, what should people do? If you let me get through that, I'm going to be talking about that, because we've got about 75 pages worth of information I'm going to be covering. And I'm going to be talking about how people who are even at the areas of $40,000 a year can still do this. So I'm going to break it down for you today, so that even poor folks can know, shit, instead of me buying a case of beer every day, I could probably do this and I won't be broke after a while. You feel me? That's the important part. If you want to change your life, but if you don't, then I don't care. My boss is a little old Indian man. That doesn't matter. Uh, I don't work in an office. I work 100% remotely, which means you're one of the people that can live in a different country and still make the salary that you're making in America, where you would not have to worry about spending as much on your standard of living, which means you can put more money towards what I'm about to tell you, which will by far make you a millionaire in 20 years, but likely, depending on how much you invest, make you a millionaire inside of 10. And if you had a partner that had the investor mentality, y'all could double down on it, and y'all would definitely make a millionaire inside of 10 and probably make 2.5 million inside of 20, which means this relationship is worth it if we're not broke anymore. I got furloughed during but that's because you weren't a Fed. If your boss is driving a better vehicle and living in a nicer house, than you, quit. I still, I still agree with that saying. I, I mean, technically, that's going to be the thing. Uh, but here's the thing. The internet is going to be full of gurus that are going to be selling an easy dream, and that's what Redeem wanted us to believe, that I was going to sell you guys an easy dream, that passive income and that early retirement, and I'm not going to do that. They're going to tell you just cut out some lattes and invest the difference, and they make it sound so simple. You can invest that way, but you're not gonna make it to $1 million like that. You might make it to $120,000 in 10 years, but you're not gonna make it to $1 million just by cutting out your latte, canceling your gym membership, switching to a cheaper car insurance, and doing a group phone plan. No, It doesn't rock that way. They're gonna make it sound simple, like it's just a choice. But what if after paying for rent, gas, and groceries, there's no difference left over to invest? And that's what a lot of people come across, where they end up in a scenario where they can't afford to invest. They're just broke. They live paycheck to paycheck, right? This isn't going to be another one of those videos, right? This isn't going to be another one of those shows. This is an honest look at what actually it will take for someone on a low income to invest a serious amount of money, specifically upward of $1,500 a month at the most. The title isn't just clicks. It's almost impossible, but almost isn't entirely. It can be done. You can, and no, nothing to do with XRPs. No, if you buy XRPs, you're wasting your money, because at the end of the day, XRPs is a growth stock investment opportunity, and you're not going to be able to do anything with that until you sell it. So you're buying for the future, hoping that XRP becomes $1 million status while you hold it, so that when you sell it, that you have that $1 million sale minus taxation and inflation. XRP is not the way to go. Yeah, I'm not saying don't do XRP when you have a healthy portfolio that's making its own money and you take your dividends and invest in XRP. You can take your dividends and invest in crypto. You can take your dividends and invest in gold and silver. But if you don't have a dollar towards your stock portfolio today, XRP is a waste of money. If you haven't been building a dividend portfolio, a 100% cash paying dividend portfolio over the past 12 months, XRP is a waste of money. Anything that you put your money up and it's got to stay there, you're not getting any money off of it, and you have to sell it in order to get a profit off of it, that is not going to turn you a profit right now, today. That is a buy and hold where the money you're putting up, you don't need it. You're not going to miss it in order for you to get anything off of it when the value of it does go up. Like buying the gold, wait for it to go to $25,000 an ounce and then sell it. If you have 100 ounces, you make a lot of money off of it, but your money's got to stay there. Look at how long it took for it to go from $200 to $4,500 since the 70s. You would have to still be alive when the gold reaches $25 an ounce or $25,000 an ounce in order for you to benefit from stuff like that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the ability for you to see immediate results within 30 days of starting, right? Now, this is going to demand a level of sacrifice that most people aren't willing to make, which is why not everybody does this. So while this is highly possible, a lot of people are going to be like, shit, I need my Brazilian weave. And that's the reason why they broke. Okay. And it's going to be a financial plan that is so precise that it's going to feel like walking on a tightrope. So let's get into the cold hard math of this, because first we need to agree on what low income actually means, because women have a different mentality than men about this. Hold on. He said, well, if you know the financial shift is happening, buying XRP is the best bet in the near future. And that's going to be for somebody that's highly experienced with XRP. That's not going to be for somebody who is unknowledgeable about XRP or who just popped onto the show from their For You page and they're like, oh shit, I can actually start putting money away and actually build wealth on that. I want to try that. That type of person who doesn't know what's going on, an intro level investor, a beginner, a novice, that is XRP is not for you. If you live from paycheck to paycheck and you decide for the first time in forever that in 2026 I'm going to start saving money for my future, XRP is not the way to go. If you have been involved in cryptocurrencies and digital currencies and XRPs and all this other stuff over the past 5, 10, 15 years, you know almost everything you could possibly know about it. You've been watching the trends and you just started investing 6 months ago and you're watching the ups and downs on it. You've made a few bad calls, but you've made a few good ones. Then you might be able to use XRP to make you a few good bets the same way you can use crypto to make a few good bets, but it's not something for you. Yeah, beginner's luck. It's terrible idea. Do not go towards XRP with your digital investments. I already covered a show on this when we were talking about the 50-year mortgage. If Donald Trump was able to put that into action while he's still in office, I already covered that. XRP is not the way to go, because XRP is supposed to be the platform that aids in the transactions. XRP is not actually designed to be a stock option. So you're investing in XRP. That's like investing in Oracle and hoping that the TikTok deal happens. You're not getting any money out of this because until they start bankrolling where their shares go up and you can sell the increase and get your money back off of it, you're not making any money. Growth stocks don't make you money on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis. Growth stocks, you profit from selling the difference. Okay. Exactly. You don't make any money. He talk about unless you're early. No, no, we're not going down that route. We're not going down that route. Now, let's start this in a term that gets thrown around. But we're gonna see how this works. The numbers are going to be what matters. So when we talk about the bottom quarter of households in the United States, because we got countries all over the world here, we aren't talking about people who are just bad with money. We are talking about a huge part of the population fighting a steep uphill battle. The bottom 25% of United States households survives on an income that is often below $55,000 a year, which is what women consider men that are not valuable. For perspective, the median household income in the United States was about $83,730 in 2024. That's the middle. So we're talking about an income tens of thousands of dollars below the national midpoint. In fact, the Federal Reserve in 2024 survey of household economics and decision making found that about a quarter of adults live in a household making less than $40,000 a year. 25% of the adults, men and women alike, out of 385 million people, that's over 100 million people making less than 40,000 a year. That's why I'm telling you, XRP is a bad choice. So let's make this real. A full time worker earning a medium amount might make around 62,000 a year, but the bottom 25% is often far below that. So let's pick that number, and we're going to sit squarely in the lower income bracket for a single person for about 40,000 a year, right? So, understandably, you can work at a Wendy's and make 65,000 a year. You can work at a Waffle House and Amazon. You can work at a Subway and make you can make you could be a teacher and make 45,000 a year. First 5 years as a teacher, fresh out of college. You can I'm thinking of like these are all normal jobs, y'all. Like a bus driver for the local city, you could between 45 and 65,000 a year, and this is like jobs without overtime. You can do overtime and you can go from 40,000 to 55,000 a year. Uh and you're still inside of this bracket range. So you're not failing in life. This is just what people deal with, right? Now, a $40,000 gross annual income is $3,330 a month before taxes. So after federal, state, and FICA taxes, that person is lucky to take home around $2,700 a month, depending on their state, because some states don't have taxes. XRP is not going nowhere. I already talked about tokenization. Anything that's throwing up tokenization is the wrong idea. That is false news because tokenization is really only digitizing the deed of ownership for the physical asset to make that sale easily done over the internet. Tokenization, if you're going through XRP for tokenization by 2030, you're not going to make any money off of that because tokenization it's almost like saying I'm going to invest in cash registers, and that's just a dumb move to make. Okay. I'm investing in cash registers so that the transaction can be done. I'm going to make a bunch of money off of cash registers so that the transaction can be done. No, no. Now, you charge interest rates on the usage of that cash register. That would make sense. No, it does not transfer to blockchain at all. That's false news. Look, XRP to the dumbest. Exactly. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. Provide enlightenment. Under God probably is spamming from the who is this redeeming Jesus Christ guy, because they both came over here with a religious name and they're sitting over here spewing nonsense about financial information. I fact check everything, and I've already fact checked XRP and tokenization, and you're gonna have to watch a show on that from about 3 months ago. So I already know that what you're saying is wrong. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop entertaining that conversation and focus on this, because anybody who's here trying to learn how to make money for themselves so that they don't have to work for somebody else anymore, I want to focus on them, because those are the people that's what's important here. Now, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the biggest expense for every household has always been the household. So while the average for housing is high, recent data shows that median asking rent for an apartment is somewhere around $1,600 a month, sometimes less, sometimes more, depending on the state. But they always want you to have three times the rent to get into some of these places, with a little variation of adjustment on that. And when you're looking at $1,600 a month on three times the rent, you're looking at something close to $4,800 a month as your income in order to get into that place. So for a person making 40,000, that's already unsustainable. Oh, okay. Well, bye bye, guy. The financial rule of thumb is to keep housing at no more than 30% of your take home pay, which for individuals that are making $400 or $2,700 a month worth of take home pay, that's not a lot of money. So 30% of your income for a 40,000 a year income is going to be something closer to $810 a month. Now, yeah, this is going to be a single person probably getting a one bedroom loft, or an efficiency, or a small one bedroom like 500 square foot apartment in the United States. Yeah, 1,700 a month is a lot, right? Now, where in America can you find a safe apartment for that price without multiple roommates, right? Now, for most, this is a fantasy. But let's say you pull it off and you find a room for exactly that amount. So $2,700 take home pay minus $810 for rent. That leaves you with $1,890. Next is going to be the transportation. Getting to work isn't free ever. The average cost now is going to be over $1,100 a month, including car payments, the insurance, gas, and maintenance. Even if you ride it till the wheels fall off and you delay maintenance, you're still paying a decent quantity of money. A low income earner can't afford that on average. They're driving a 15-year-old or older car bought with cash. Even with no car payments, uh, little insurance, gas, and the inevitable repairs, it's still going to add up. Now, a conservative estimate for a paid off car might be around about $400 a month. So out of that $1,890 that you got left over, you take that $400 a month off of the car, you're still going to have somewhere around $1,490. Then's going to come the food. The average person spends about $847 a month on food, split between groceries and eating out. If you reduce that to a little less, watch this. Since an individual who can't afford to eat out at all, ever, with extreme coupons and a diet of rice, beans, chicken, and maybe, they can get their grocery bill down to $400 a month for one person, right? You're eating Progresso canned goods and rice on a regular basis. You know what I mean? The gas is here as a feather. Gotta feed, work will. Oh, walk to work. Now that $1,490 minus $400 is going to leave you with a little over $1,090. Now we still haven't touched the utilities, electricity, water, and internet, and the cell phone plans. So let's be incredibly frugal and call all of that somewhere around $200 a month. We haven't paid for the health insurance, which is, even if it's subsidized, has premiums and co-pays. So let's put that cost somewhere around $150 a month out of pocket. Now, if you rock with, like I told you, some of those marketplaces that might give you a $0 per month insurance policy, but then you have to pay the copay on a doctor's appointment that might be $150 for the doctor's appointment. You're paying $75. You're still paying something, right? You might not go to the doctor so that you don't have to deal with that copay, but you're still paying something, right? Now, look, he said top ramen. This is going to be a very optimistic figure, but we haven't bought the toilet paper yet, laundry detergent, or new work shoes. So let's budget that down to the bare bones for something around $100 for the necessities. From the $1,090, you subtract the $200 from utilities, $150 for healthcare, $100 for supplies, and then you're left with $640. If for some reason you say bump the healthcare, you're at $790, almost $800 a month, right? Now, this is what the average low income American lives at, right there, about $800 worth of discretionary spending. Out of that, if this were men, it would be hanging out with guys and dating. Out of that, if this was women, it would be hair, nails, eyelashes, and attire to make herself look more sexy, makeup, all that stuff. After you finish paying for those things, you're usually broke. So after a woman pays for her appearance out of that $800 a month, she doesn't have enough money to pay for dating. Where the logic behind when men say why don't women pay for the men taking the men out on dates, because she ain't got nothing left after she finished doing for herself. Then from the other side of things, um, the men who don't take care of themselves, they don't buy new clothes. They wear the same stuff that they wore when they were 18 because they still fit it. They'll wear it with holes in it because it still fits. They don't do it until the shoe rips apart where they can't glue it back together. They won't buy a new shoe. All of these things are reasons why men have a little bit more money to spend, but they're going to waste it on entertaining a partner. This is why they stay broke. All right, he said invest in toilet paper. Yes. And look, I'm gonna just go real quick. Jolin has been a genius on his podcast since he has dove in. You should invest in ammo before you invest in toilet paper. Because if you are left in a scenario where you either had toilet paper or ammo, you could use that ammo to get you toilet paper, but you couldn't use that toilet paper to stop somebody with ammo from taking your toilet paper. I just want to throw that out there. Dual purpose. Quad rubber clear sealant makes an excellent permanent shoe repair. See, now this is where we are. That's $640 if you're paying for your health insurance. After working a full time job and living a life with almost no comforts, no restaurants, no vacations, no new clothes on a regular basis, no movies, our $40,000 a year earner has $640 left when that individual doesn't have a wife and kids that he has to pay for. Okay, hold on. The other investment that you should have at least a month's supply of drink. Bless it. Now, a month's supply of drinking water is different from each person. But if you assume that each person in your household should consume between 75 and 100% of a full case of water every week, you would buy one case of water per person in the house for 4 or 5 weeks and keep that on level and rotate it out. If you're planning for some Hurricane Katrina style stuff where you have like 90 days worth of no clean drinking water, you might want to buy more than that. But if you've got 4 people in your house and you're buying 4 cases times that's 16 cases of water, you're buying that for 3 months. That's 48 cases of water in the house and you're rotating them out. You're probably going to have a warehouse in your house somewhere if you're buying 48 cases of water, but at least a month's supply of water. And when you know that they're putting it on the news that stars might happen, the first thing you want to do is go and buy you 6 more months of water. But you can't even buy MREs that easy. But it is a good idea to have 6 cases of MREs. If you have water and MREs, any MREs that require you to just add water, you will be good to go for half a year. I buy 3 cases a week. It's cheaper than Masters. You're definitely right. It, you're definitely right. I buy the Sam's Club water. I buy them on a regular basis. Matter of fact, they ship it to the house, so I don't have to carry it up the stairs. I'll go to the grocery store and buy light stuff, and then I'll have them ship the heavy stuff to the house. 3 cases of water is equivalent to having 4 monsters. Oh, the monsters drinks. Oh yeah, that's expensive for these dang monsters drinks. These kids over here drinking these monsters like they damn Starbucks coffees. Now, assuming that these guys don't have any student loans that they're trying to pay for, no credit card debt that they're trying to pay down, or no surplus in medical bills that they're trying to entertain, and no car breakdowns that would cost them $1,000 to fix, like a transmission might cost you between 2,500 and 5,000 to do. A head gasket job might cost you between 2,500 and 5,000 to do, and that just blows up the whole spot on this because that's like 5 months worth of money. See what I'm saying? The Federal Reserve's own data shows that adults in lower income brackets are far more likely to face hardships and have trouble paying all of their bills because they just don't have enough money to go around. Now, this is the brutal reality. The latte factor is a joke to someone in this type of position. They aren't choosing between a coffee and retirement. They are choosing between new tires on their car and a trip to the dentist. Now, into the grim picture, let's reintroduce the title of tonight's show, investing $1,500 a month. For the person we just described who has a theoretical maximum discretional spending of $640 left over if nothing goes wrong, investing $1,500 a month isn't just hard, it's mathematically impossible. To even try, they'd go $860 into debt every single month, which means that you would likely get rid of your insurance and probably drop your car expenses so that you could put that $860 a month and then ride a bicycle to work so that and rough it with no medical treatment to make it make sense financially. It's doable. It's just extremely, extremely uncomfortable, right? I know a 25-year-old, a case of 6 monsters a day. That is too much money. They need to just go to sleep. Water I can clean out gallon of milk. Oh, I use a cleaned out gallon of milk plastic jugs and fill them with tap water since it's chlorinated. Now, actually, what I do is you can get the jugs of water and just keep them instead of throwing them away. And they're like 30, 40 cents a jug. And if you boil the water on the stove, the tap water. You boil the water on the stove, and then you skim the impurities off the top with a very the whisks that you use to sift flour. You want to use that whisk, and you just skim the uh, uh, impurities off the top of the water to get as much of that off of the water as possible. And then if you have one of those water purifiers in your house that is for the water. You pour the water in there, use the purifier to pour it into that jug, fill the jug up, put the jug into the freezer. Then when you need it, you have filtered water. And it's cheaper to rinse and reuse that than to go and buy cases of bottled water. The problem with the plastic milk jug is that they're only meant to contain the milk for a short period of time before the plastic breaks down. Now, if you get the milk jug or the water jug, you can reutilize that with the water for probably 3, 5, 7 times, maybe longer than that, depending on whether or not you put the stuff in there hot and whether or not you put it in the freezer and let it turn into ice. Because the more often that it freezes, the more likely it's going to rupture. But if you just filled it and put it in the refrigerator at the regular temperature of the refrigerator, you can reutilize a bottle of water probably for 3 to 6 months before you have to replace it. But again, at 46 cents a bottle. It's cheaper than $1.20 per individual water bottle, which which chemically leaches into your drink water. Yeah, that's the other part. The plastic is going to seep into your drink water. The plutonium is going to get into your drinking water. Glass bottles, however, last forever and do not contaminate the water. At least, also you can purify by putting in the sun for a day with no need for chlorine. But I have not found glass bottles for the. And then if you got kids and they break it, eh, plastic is safer, but glass is better. uh, Cosmic radiation does the job for you. Okay, cool. And since about 2011, Earth has been hit by UV radiation reaching ground level. True, which is why the glasses are good. And that Brita filter saves bottled water expenses and no boiling is required. If you've got a Brita filter on your fridge and you got a Brita filter on your faucet, then you're good. You're good to go. You know what I mean? Because you can just take the tap water and put it straight into the water bottle, and you ain't got to worry about boiling shit. If you got two filters on there, then you're even better because whatever didn't get filtered from the first one gets filtered from the second one, and then when you get it, you're good to go. I encourage filters, but let's get back to the main point here. This is going to be where so much financial advice completely misses the mark because the numbers thrown around are as achievable um, as like throwing a ball into space with some of these people because they are totally disconnected from the real life of huge parts of the population. But I understand that part of the population. I understand the part of the population of people who don't make $2,000 a month. So let's look at what investing 1,500 a month would actually mean for low income earners. For a $40,000 year earner at that $2,700 a month take home pay, if they're investing $1,500, that would be 55% of their entire post tax income. So think about that for a second. Before they buy a single grain of rice or pay for their electric anything to cook with, over half their money will be gone. That's going to be absurd to think about. So let's move up to the top of the bottom 25%. Say that household earning something along the magnitude of 60,000 a year. Now, this could be a single person who got a better paying job or a couple where both partners are working low wage jobs. A $60,000 a year gross income is $5,000 a month. After taxes, their take home pay might be around $4,000 a month. Is investing 1,500 a month possible now? Of course. $1,500 is 37.5% of their $4,000 take home pay. That is an incredibly high savings rate. The common recommendation, though, is 15 to 20%. This is more than double that. After investing, this household has $2,500 left for the entire month if they put the $1,500 away first. Now, if you had, and we're going to be talking about this later in the week, if you had that low income $40,000 a year lifestyle and a $60,000 a year income, and you put that $1,500 away and you had the $2,500 left, we just showed you how you would still have out of the $2,500, like $500 of discretionary spending outside of your investment portfolio, where you could still buy you a few drinks, get your hair and nails did a little bit cheaper, a little less often, but you would still have some discretionary spending after putting away $1,500 worth of investments because you would be living at a lower than necessary income. When you're living at 30% or 40 to 60% of your income, you're having 40% of or 60% of your income as discretionary spending, which could then be utilized as investments. He said, yeah, but that doesn't filter out the contaminants like the microplastics and the pharmaceuticals that are in the drinking water. Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why I say boil it. You can boil so much of it, you can skim so much of it. It's not perfect. People buy distilled waters because it's supposed to have less in it, but we also know that the plutonium in the plastic seeps into those water bottles, so it's still contaminated. It's just less contaminated, right? Right. Distilled waters in its pure form, and no, you don't need minerals from your water. That's why mankind has been drinking rainwater for thousands of years. You know how they legalized catching rainwater in some states? You got to figure out a way to build your water filtration system where they can't tell that you're capturing water. But if you do it right and you put you a good 200-gallon container, probably in your backyard in a fenced yard where nobody can see it, and a giant reservoir thing that can capture it, and then you have you like a little spigot at the bottom of it that pumps the water through a hose that can then be filtered into your house. You could actually save money on your water bill. You could save money on your um a lot of stuff, your pool, if you're doing it to fill your pool, whatever the case may be, and actually have you some better drinking water. Especially if you have it in a place that's not obstructed by trees, where the rainwater will go directly into the thing, but with the filter, and then go into the container where you store it, and then all you just got to do is just run it through. But they don't like that. It's the equivalent of its electrolytes. Okay. And I learned that from a firefighter that was in the profession for 40 years, drinking only distilled water. Yeah, you can get your own. Look now, you can save y'all some money. If you live in a city in a state that rain a lot, you can save you some money by catching you some rainwater. You can save you some money by catching you some rainwater. Believe it or not. You know what I mean? Now, let's revisit that average expense though, because the average housing costs are over 2,100, and if the household lives in an average apartment, they have less than $400 left for everything: transportation, food, utilities, healthcare, everything. It doesn't work out, right? So to make that $1,500 investment goal, they must live as if they're in deep poverty, despite higher income. That's how they'll make themselves more successful. They call that live modestly. They have to find a methodical $800 to $1,200 a month apartment. They have to spend only $400 on transportation or less, and $400 on food or less, and then they have to pray that they never get sick or that their car never breaks down. And for anyone in the bottom 25 percentile income, $1,500 a month isn't a financial goal. It's a lifestyle ultimatum. So it's a promise of a better future in exchange for almost unbelievable present. You're living destitute, like Michael said before. Live like you're homeless. It's living destitute for that $1,500 a month investment, which isn't reasonable. So it forces you to strip your own life down to bare essentials for years. And this is why the advice feels so insulting, because it ignores the reality for millions of individuals. There's no more fat to trim from the budget already. So when a financial guru is on a yacht telling you just find a way to invest that $1,500 a month, they're showing you they have no clue what it means to be low income earners. The average household already spends nearly $6,545 a month just to get by. The gap between that reality and the simplicity advice is a canyon, right? He says, I don't pay for water, I have an underground spring. Oh, so I'm just gonna go over there with some bicycle pumps and we're gonna siphon the water out of out of the spring. We're gonna be out there like Wile E. Coyote and Bugs Bunny, just trying to get all the stuff out of the. so the true, so the truly impossible scenario that people tell you about, it's not impossible. It is truly possible, but it requires a life most people won't recognize, right? And its timeline is unreasonable for a lot of people. Now it's time that we talk about and take a look at an alternative. Because if you guys are still watching, the math hasn't scared you away. It means that you're willing to ask, okay, but what if I did it anyway? What would it take? This is where we get into the raw reality of sacrifices that are required, right? because technically there is another way, and we're going to get into that too. And it's not about because this is how you would use $1,500 a month to get to $1 million. If you only did $500 a month, we said that it was like $640 of discretionary spending, and if you took $500 a month, you could make your way up to $500,000 in 10 years. But if you did $250 a month, you might make it up to $250,000 in 5 years. It's not a million; it's a half million in 20 years. But if your standard of living is 40,000 a year, and your 15 to 20% return starts putting you in a position where you're looking at roughly 40,000 a year, 20, 25, 30,000 a year return on your investment, your standard of living is covered by the money that you put in your stock portfolio. And we're going to be getting into that a little later. So you guys got to hang out and see what's going on. He said, "Oh, Washington State gets lots of water. Oh, okay. So there are some issues with catching your rainwater for drinking purposes. I wouldn't recommend it because all the things that are floating in the air before the rain actually begins. Well, yeah, especially if you live in California, because California got a lot of stuff going on after that chemical fire they had out there. You measure rain in inches. We measure rain in feet. Okay, so not to mention all the contaminants that are seeping off of your roof from uh, primarily asphalt products. If you have a metal roof, yes, and you would need some kind of catch system to drain the residuals. So you're thinking about the gutters catching the water off of the roof, and then it goes into a container. I'm talking about a container in the middle of the backyard that is not obstructed by the house or any trees, where it's coming straight out of the sky, going into this device that's going to hold the water, which has less runoff because the runoff is what's dangerous. The runoff from the trees, the runoff from the buildings, that runoff is going to be toxic for you. But then you also have the atmosphere if you're in a polluted environment because the air pollution could be resonating into the water. But if you're catching the rainwater, it is possible to do. And if you lived in Louisiana and you were catching rainwater during Katrina, you had better drinking water than what they had in the pipes. But if you just put a gutter system and pipe it into your home, into a contaminant or containment and a filtration system inside your home, nobody would know. Yes. Now, if you did that, you had a containment system, but you also added a filtration system to reduce the contaminants, then it would just be an add-on onto the house and nobody would really see it. But if you had this gigantic, like Tim the Toolman Taylor device sitting in your backyard that was sucking rain out of the sky, and then you had like a gigantic hose pipe that was going, you know what I mean? It would draw attention if you didn't have a fenced in yard. That's what we're talking about there. Now, with this $60,000 a year income, you can't live a normal life. You have to engineer your entire existence around one goal, which is freeing up the cash. So this isn't a skipping latte scenario. It's a fundamental change in your relationship with housing, transportation, and food. Now, let's start with the big killers, housing. To hit our target, you'd have two, maybe three options. One, roommate gauntlet. I don't mean roommate in a nice two-bedroom. I mean three or four roommates in a house far from the center of the city. You're renting a single room. Your share of the rent and utilities has to be under $800, period. This means living with strangers with no control over cleanliness and constant conflicts over dishes, noise, etc. You're sacrificing your personal space and peace of mind for your investment accounts. This is for individuals that are young bucks that are 18 to 25. You're just starting out. You just moved out of your mama's house. You'll be able to perform this a lot easier. And if you're doing this for 5, 7, 10 years, if you jumped out of your mama house at 18 years old and you did something like this and you did it for 10 years, you would be 28, but you'd still be a millionaire. You know what I mean? If you did something like this and you jumped out at 25 years old and you was able to hold this down for 10 years, you'd be 35 years old, but you still be a millionaire. So it's doable. You know what I mean? It's just, are you willing to put in that effort? What do you say? What we got going on? 10 by 10, tarp, a hole in the center of the over a barrel. Okay, the hockey net to capture the residual water in the air. Yeah, yeah, that would be acoustic attention. Not too many people know about acoustic uh, actuation. Very popular in third world countries, and that's what I'm saying. But they don't have all the pollution we got. Electro winning, electro whining. I would rather live in my car than with a roommate. I can't do it. Okay, now living in a car, that's another thing. So you could have a storage unit, 150, $200 a month for a storage unit, plus the cost of your car, roughly $400 a month. And then you might have to do a little bit more eating out, TV dinners and stuff like that. But you still would be operating at a roughly $1,000 to $1,200 a month worth of uncomfortable living, but the other $1,500 a month that you're not spending at a $40,000 a year income, you'll still be able to put it away and make yourself successful. But typically, people who live out of their car spend a lot more time at the bar and at other inside places so that they can finally get out of that car and stretch their legs, and they spend money to be out of their car, and that ultimately sabotages their ability to be financially successful. Now, option two, the return home. If you have parents who are willing and able to let you move back in, this is a single most powerful financial move that you can make. So if you're 30, 40 years old and you're trying to start over, it's like a cheat code, but you're sacrificing your independence and stepping back into a family dynamic where you're probably tired. And this is what you try to escape from. And also, you have to understand that depending on the type of family dynamics, you might not be respected as an adult, because if they are the primary breadwinners of the household, they might still tell you how to live, curfews and all of that and the other, which that sacrifice that you would make, you could still tolerate it for 7 to 10 years and still make yourself a millionaire on that scenario. Your social and romantic life gets infinitely more complicated here. It's a massive trade-off of personal freedom. So you do not have a relationship here, right? So option three is the most extreme: geographic arbitration or geographic arbiters. This means moving not to a cheaper suburb, but to one of the lowest cost of living areas in the country. And you might need to leave friends and family behind, the entire support network, to move to a small town where you know no one. And this has a huge career implication, as jobs may not pay as well. It's a life altering gamble. But if you have a digital nomad where you're working from your computer, you can make this type of scenario, and then you would be financially successful on that. Next, your transportation. You must obliterate the average monthly cost of over $1,000. You don't have the car payment, even your car at 15 years old, or whatever, that beater that you bought for $4,000 in cash. You learn basic maintenance from YouTube videos, and you pray the transmission never falls out, uh, because a $3,000 repair would wipe out 2 months of investment. But your car is not a status symbol, because it is a tool that you monetize at all costs, and you minimize that, right? You minimize the risks on that. Or if you live in a city with public transportation, you sell your car and take the bus, trading convenience and hours of your time for the money that you're not going to spend on that type of expense. Just watching the tax auction for Tenio, 28 acres timberland valued at 50 549,000, sold for back taxes $9,400. That's a huge drawback. Woo, that's not bad. That's not bad. I went to that website that Michael was talking about before. I had seen a manufactured home on there for $5,500 that has a tenant in it for $1,300 a month. Now, you'd have to go to the property and make sure that it's still there, make sure that the tenant's still in there before you bought it. But if you bought that, the tenant paying rent would reimburse you the $5,500 it took for you to claim the property. And so at $1,300 a month, it would take like 4 or 5 months for you to recoup all of your money, and then the rest of the year would be profits. And that's a good way to get in there, but you'd have to do your research. You would have to make sure that the income is still there, make sure that the place is still livable, and then put your money up, because it's almost like a blind bid. You're putting your money up, you don't know what the last bid is, it just tells you what the minimum bid is. And if you are the highest bidder, then you get the property. If you're not the highest bidder when the auction is over, you don't get the property. But they don't tell you that somebody outbidded you. They just, you know, you just put your bid up. So I don't know. It's something that I might take a little deeper of a look in one day. But right now, I'm just like, I need to get some interest off of it. So I'm getting set for next month's tax auction. Oh yeah, they're gonna be selling a lot of stuff. I'll be selling a lot of stuff. I went to that exact site. I went to that exact site and I see, but the problem is that there, depending on what property you're looking at, there's a limited period of time to bid. And if you don't live in the city or state where the deal is, you might have to commute to that location to verify that the asset is as advertised. So if you're going to go to bidforassets.com, you have to look at the local listings of where you can commute to and see if those assets are still in existence as it is advertised on the bid. And you would have, the day you find it, you would have to go look at it the next day. You might not be able to get a tour of the property where you're able to go inside, but you would have to go um to the property and make sure that it actually exists. It's still standing. Because sometimes they'll have a property up for sale where they're selling a parcel. The building is torn down, but the last photo they took, the building was still standing. So you're like, oh yeah, I can buy this house, but it's not a house; it's a plot of land that might still have the foundation of the house still there, but the house is gone. I'm interested in the dollar bids. That's interesting. The dollar bids, okay, so they some of them are not really dollar bids. They typically have like a minimum, like $500 down off of, which is like 10% of the $5,000 value. And if you put your bid up and nobody else outbids you, then you get that. But I mean, I didn't see an option in there where they update you that somebody outbidded you. He said that you get your money back except the $35 processing fee. Now that is where you end up getting ripped off, because if you keep playing the game where you bid on a house, you bid the lowest possible amount on the property, and somebody else bids like $1,000 more than that, you'll lose $35 each time you lose a bid. You do 10 bids, you lose 10 bids, you lose $350. Now, if you're going to overestimate, if you're going to assume, well, this house is $5,500, I might want to bet $7,500. You could be the only person bet on the house, and if nobody bids you, you end up with it at $7,500, but it technically was only worth 5,500. Not necessarily property is one of those things that you can just sit on forever if you don't have it developed. Yeah, it's not a waste of money if you don't need the money that you're investing in it and you're not trying to develop it right away. You can sit on it, you can buy it, sit on it, and then later on, 5, 10 years down the line, you can go and do what you got to do with it. And if you own it and it doesn't have a monetary value on it where you're paying property taxes on it, you're good to go. You're clean on it. But a lot of times, if you have to pay property taxes on it, you're paying that 100, 500, $700 a month on dry land to own it until you do something with it. Land is power. $35 per transaction, but it's still it. So if you bid and lose, you said that it's a transaction fee. So if you bid and you put your money up and you lose the bid, and then you lose that deal, they're going to give you back 100% of your money unless they close the deal. Because from what it sounded like to me, that you put up your money, and because you put up that money, they charge you $35 transaction fee. But if the deal doesn't work out, you get back everything else but that $35 transaction fee, which means you're losing $35 every time you perform a transaction. It is a little bit better than leaving your money in the bank, but you want to get some surefire deals. Technically, they charge the whole concept of bank ballots to a bank bail. What is that in 2013? Okay, now back to the main topic. Back to the main topic because we got a lot of stuff that we want to cover today. And we're halfway through, so no worries. We got plenty of time here. The food. This is going to require intense discipline because your budget for food away from home is supposed to be zero in this situation, not almost zero, completely zero. So you don't go to restaurants or bars. Your meal prep every Sunday. Your diet is the cheapest one that you can have, most calorie dense food that you can find: rice, beans, oats, chicken, chicken thighs, frozen vegetables. Your grocery bill must be under $400 a month if you can afford that. Now, when friends go out, you have to be the one that says, I can't, I'm on a strict budget, right? And this will be awkward and you will strain your friendships, but you will feel isolated unless you have the kind of friends that are like, oh yeah, we'll just come and hang out at your house. And they buy all the drinks and stuff to come to your house and you hang out with your friends. You can do that too. Finally, everything else. Your entertainment budget is basically zero. Your hobbies are free hobbies: hiking, libraries, watching podcasts, whatever. You don't have five different streaming services. You don't buy new clothes unless the old ones have holes in them and they rip up and they can't be worn anymore. And then it's from a thrift store if you do go buy something. Vacations don't exist at all. A vacation is a day on sleeping. So I want to be clear, if you're trying to run that lifestyle with $1,500 a month worth of investing, that lifestyle is grueling. It is a decade long grind of voluntary astonnery. You are pissing yourself off on top of everything else. You said what, 401k? What, everyone's money in the bank? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So including 401k, RAs, etc. Remember to like and subscribe. We got a lot of stuff. We're about to cover the better side of this thing because I have to talk about the bad side before I talk about the good side. Come to my house for a barbecue. Oh, okay. Most people spend more on their morning coffee than their commute at the convenience store than they really realize, and that's what I've been talking about. Uh, every yeah, waffles too. Waffles too. You're not even going to Waffle House, bro. You're not having your Waffle House moment. You're not world stalling your Waffle House no more. No, but this is if you were trying to at a $60,000 a year income put away a $1,500 a month income. Complain about paying $200 in groceries, but they can easily, and I have seen it personally, it's been $50 a visit. No cap. Look, look, I go to the grocery store, one stop at Walmart, one time, cheapest I've done it so far, $165. On average, it's about $450 a month. And some months it's cheaper than other months because what I don't use from last month rolls over the next month. And you're talking about you're going to the store every week and you're doing $50 a week. I go to the store once a month and I buy what I believe I would use for the next 4 to 5 weeks. And I'll spend typically on good times, typically about $260 at the store, and then I'll spend another 100 to $150 over the next 3 weeks at about $50 a week or less to have the stuff delivered to the house that I didn't carry to the house when I went to the store the one time. And then whatever I don't use this month rolls over the next month. And like men, we are repetition. So whatever we bought last month, we're buying this month, and whatever we buy this month, we're buying next month. I don't know what you're talking about, buddy. We're not praising nobody here today. Now, um, yeah, look at that. He said, go to Waffle House, get a good meal and a side show. On average, it costs you $160 to leave the house daily. No doubt. That's why I stay home. That's why I stay home. I work from home, podcast from home, groceries delivered to the house for free. When I leave the house, I take the dog for a walk. the car, the car moves 4 times a month, sometimes 2 times a month. It's sitting up. Look, I have gotten down to the point. I have a battery on a kill switch with a solar panel on the dashboard where the sun charges the battery while the battery is in the car, not connected to nothing. I push a button and I unlock the battery so that it provides power to the car so that I drive the car the 1 to 2 times a month that I drive the car. Car insurance, $700 every 6 months. Damn. So $1,400 a year worth of car insurance to drive that bitch 12 times a year, 18 times a year. It's a lot of money. That's what $20 to $30 in diesel. Ooh. No, I'm dealing with like really I alternate because most days I like premium gas and the car runs better on premium gas, but sometimes I like to do a little less and I'll do that 87 on time to time. So right now I've seen gas pumps that's under $2 a gallon and 20 to $25 would fill the car up. $20 to $25 would fill the car up. And the car will not need filling for 2 to 3 more months. So I just spent $30 on gas, but it's like $10 a month worth of gas. So I ain't really complaining. Y'all talking about $30 a day. I'm like $10 a month on gas. 162 miles. See, but that's what I'm saying. You're doing 162 miles round trip, and I'm doing 10 to 15 mile round trip once a week, twice a month sometimes. I ain't going nowhere, bro. Now, you're sacrificing your youth, your social life, and nearly all forms of conventional fun. And the cost isn't just financial, it's emotional, social, and psychological as well, which is one of the reasons why not a lot of people do it. And most people, quiet, reasonably, aren't willing to pay that extreme expense for anything. So, assuming you're one of the rare few people willing to endure this Spartan lifestyle, you now have your $1,500 a month. Now, what do you do with that? Because a simple S&P 500 fund is fine, but someone making these sacrifices, the goal is often to accelerate growth more aggressively. And this is going to require a more specialized high risk approach, which is this is what you guys came for. How you're going to make money for yourself. Well, he said, all I pump is that 87 in my Toyota, but I put many miles a day on that thing. Yeah, oh yeah, you can get you some octane boost and put in there and give you a little oomph. Funny thing, the 93 octane and 94 octane, while it does cost a few more pennies per gallon, it requires less performance from your car to get the same results, which means that you put less pressure on the gas pedal, which means you technically burn a little less gas. You kind of break even with the quantity of miles you get off your vehicle versus the cost per mile for the gallons of gas. It's just that not a lot of people want to spend that extra money on the premium, especially if you leave your car running idle when you're hanging out talking to your friends outside of your car and stuff. But if you're just from point to point, your miles per gallon will go up with the higher octane vehicles. Um, but it's up to the person. $2,700 sold for 29.97 acres and total assessed value $70,000. True. I mean, the person who got that did good. Most of us don't get it like that. Now, let's get this 2 bucket strategy. It's designed for aggressive compounding. Our bucket A is your high yield engine. Now, this is going to be the risky part. The goal here is pure raw dividend income. So you fill this bucket with high yield assets like business development companies or BDCs, mortgage real estate investment trusts or MREITs. And these companies pay out most of their income as dividends, which is why their yields can be in the double digits. Examples. Um, I'm going to give you guys this to utilize, but we're going to, and you see some of these going across the bottom of the screen. Names like Prospect Capital, PSEC, or AGNC Investment Corp, AGNC, those are not buy and hold forever stocks. Their prices can be extremely volatile. and dividend cuts are very real dangers. But if you buy into those for the right now, they're very good ones to get into. Uh, Bucket B is going to be your compounding course. And this is where you build your real long term wealth. This bucket is filled with high yield, quality, stable dividend growth companies, blue chip stocks, such as dividend aristocrats with the history of increasing their dividends. Examples might be like Johnson and Johnson, Realty Income, or ExxonMobil, Chevron, like we talked about yesterday, because the yields here are going to be much lower, maybe 3 to 5%, but they are far more secure and known for weathering economic downturns. So here's how it would work. It's a specific mechanism that has a true and real process. Rule one is that all of your new investment capital in your $1,500 a month plan goes exclusively into bucket A. And I have a large quantity of stocks that would be in that one because that one would have had Prospect Capital, Orchid Island, AGNC, Arbor Realty. You would have Armor Residential. Um, you would have a lot of these stocks that you would put together that would be anywhere between 15% interest returns right now to 19 and 20% interest returns right now, where you would be averaging somewhere around 15.1% off of bucket A list. And if you want bucket A's list, I'm going to be putting that into the membership alongside bucket B's list. So always dive into the membership if you're looking for extra detailed information. But what you would do is all dividends from both buckets, from your A list and your B list, would all automatically be reinvested into your B list. Okay. And that's going to compound your core. So think about what this does. You're using your monthly contributions to buy high yield assets that act as income pumps, and that pump spews out cash dividends, which you then use to buy shares of the most stable, reliable companies in the world. In the beginning, your $1,500 a month does all the work, but over time, the dividends snowball and grows. And your bucket A holdings start generating hundreds of dollars a month in dividends, and your growing bucket B holdings also contribute. Soon, you might have 500 or more in dividends every month being pumped into bucket B, creating a feedback loop that turbocharges your growth. But it is critical to understand the risk because the high yields in bucket A are there for a reason. These companies are sensitive to economic shifts and can cut their dividends, causing the stock price to fall. And this is not a set it and forget it strategy. It requires monitoring and a strong stomach. And that's one of the things that we're going to be, we watch it every week. So when you do this, you should be able to say, okay, well, I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to keep investing in it every week, every month, and then I'm going to move my money around and make sure that I rebalance my portfolio when I'm hearing news like Venezuela just got conquered by the United States kind of stuff. So I'm still going to look into quartz crystal investments. That's a good one to get into. Everything electronic requires synthetic grown crystals that have to be installed on everything. So are you going to be doing quartz crystal mining, or you're going to be getting into quartz crystal distribution? Because that, depending on which side of the fence you get on, depends on where your guaranteed profits are. They grow them by the metric ton. Uh, 18,000 a year is about 480 at a 5% APR. That's a good one. That's a good one to go on. That's a good one to go for. So if you've been doing a lifestyle and used the strategy for 10 years, what do you actually have to show for it? And this is where a lot of people wonder, like, can I make myself a millionaire? Yes, you can. But this is the thing. You will not be a millionaire in 10 years because the math doesn't work. To get there, you need to invest far more and get more unrealistic returns. Okay. So look at what is plausible. Given aggressive strategies, let's use a range of potential annual returns from a solid 9% to an optimistic 12%. The historical average for the S&P 500 is around 10%. So if you invested $1,500 a month and got a 9% average annual return, After 10 years, you would have approximately $288,000. If you have a more optimistic 12% average annual return, after 10 years, you would have approximately $347,000 after 10 years. This is not $1 million. It is a life changing amount of money, though, for someone who started with nothing on a $60,000 a year income, though. So, absolutely, this is a far bigger change. And this is the point that gets lost. Because if you broaden this out, contributing anywhere between 500 and 1,500 a month into bucket list A alone for 10 years with reinvesting dividends and no major problems, this would plausibly land you around anywhere between 90,000 and $450,000 range, depending on your contribution size and actual total returns. Building a portfolio of $250,000 to $1/3 of $1 million from scratch on a low income is a monumental achievement, but it is extremely doable. You just have to take the extra money that you're not spending on bullshit and put it towards your portfolio. But notice I said on the low end, you'd have well over 100 grand in 10 years sitting there. And if you're dealing with um 18% returns, 15 to 18% returns on average, and you have that money sitting there giving you that dividend return, your 100 grand give you like $18,000. That's not a lot of money, but if your 100 grand that's giving you $18,000 or 200 grand giving you $36,000, and you were originally a 40, $50,000 a year man, your whole standard of living is paid for. You're still working though. You rode that wave for another 10 years, you would have double your standard of living coming to you from dividend portfolios where you could quit your job and you would be making 2 times more money when you quit your job off your stock option than what you made before you started investing. That's a 20-year plan, which ultimately means that 30 years from now, if you decided to keep your job and keep investing, you would be far, far ahead of the game so that when you quit because of injury, you quit because of old age, you quit because you hate your boss, you quit because you dated a coworker and it didn't end well, you quit because HR called you into the office too many times, whatever the case may be, you've been stacking this cash up for so long that when you stop working, you don't need money. And because your original standard of living is a third of your investment portfolio's return, you can now increase your standard of living from slumming it to literally living a satisfactory lifestyle with 20% of your investment portfolio being reinvested anyway, where you're still not suffering financially. Everything you own that is electronic has, of course, crystals that is synthetically grown in Japan, including your toaster. IoT Internet Things. If you have 500,000 in assets and monthly income, retire. And that's what I'm trying to tell everybody. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody. You don't have to make yourself a millionaire in 10 years, but if you're aiming to make yourself a millionaire in 10 years and you end up with a $500,000 in 10 or 20 years, you can stop. And if you're able to acquire assets on top of that, you're able to put money down and start buying a house on top of that, you can stop. If your stock portfolio is paying for your mortgage, your lights, your water, and the maintenance on the car that you own, you can stop. If you got a side hustle where you get paid off the computer, you don't have to show up for work every day. You can make your pennies on your computer and live off of your stock portfolio. You can stop. And when you're making money off of the computer, whatever you're making in America, you can take it to another country. And if you're making enough money off of that computer, you can still get a visa. You can still get a work visa because as long as you're generating revenue, guaranteed revenue, they will give you an extended stay, an extended 12-month stay. And if you're going somewhere else where you're not paying for shit in America, because if you're paying for shit in America, you're paying for two households. But if you're going to another country where you're not paying for shit in America, see what I'm saying? You have the capabilities to build a life saving extra money. And then when you do come back to America, you can hit the ground running. You can leverage your stock portfolio for the money to buy the house that you want cash up front so that you don't have to negotiate the deal or take a shit ton of money off of it to buy it today. Then you can use the stock portfolio to pay off the leverage. where you got the deed separate from the debt. We talk about that every week. Separate the deed from the debt. But getting this type of income, what does this money represent? It represents options, freedom, a 10-year extreme sacrifice. You would have a significant capital base. Your portfolio could be generating a substantial income on its own with an optimistic 12% yield. A $347,000 portfolio could generate you over $41,000 a year in dividends. And if you had a $40,000 a year lifestyle, that's more money than what you needed to live. More than one person's entire starting salary. And this is going to be the end game. Because today we're talking about one person. Later this week, we're talking about two of y'all. It's not about retiring to a private island. It's about reaching a point where your money works for you and about having FU money. This is what you need. You need that fuck you money. The freedom to leave a job that you hate, the capital to put down payments on a house, the security of a safety net that you built yourself. This is a one-man mission that I'm talking to y'all about. This isn't, oh, find you a alpha boss lady that you can depend on so that you can make your money plan. This is a fuck it, make it yourself plan. And if you find somebody along the way, you can double down on this mission, which is what we're going to talk about later this week. Now, if you were to continue this for 20 years, the numbers become truly staggering because a 9% return of 1,500 a month for 20 years becomes just over $1 million. And at 12% return, it becomes over $1.498 million. So almost $1.5 million when you're at 12%. And the stock options that I be talking about at the bottom of the screen are over 15%. So on average, you would be, like Michael said, live like a poor person for 20 years, be a multimillionaire in 20 years with over 15% interest on your returns. Bankroll it. You understand? Now the $1 million dream isn't a lie, but the timeline is just much longer and harder than most people admit. And that's the reason why I tell you guys the truth about this. The goal of this strategy is to build a financial engine that gives you control over your life and helps you escape that paycheck to paycheck trap. Because believe it or not, if you put away $500 a month for 10 years, you're at 100 grand. You're getting 15% interest. That's $15,000. If you need to fix your car, you can fix your car, get back to reinvesting. That might take 3 months worth of investments out, slow you down a little bit. Instead of you making three-quarters of $1 million inside of 10 years, putting away $500 a month, you would probably have to do like 20 years and maybe 20 years and 3 months, 20 years and 5 months. Who cares? Fact is that if your standard of living is $40,000 a year and inside of 15 years, you can get off of $500 a month investments, you could get $300,000 to pay you $45,000 a year in 15 years. You could still quit your job in 20 because you would have more money than your current standard of living, which also means that if you're now making $55,000 a year, you can upgrade and go from slumming it at 40,000 a year to having a little discretionary spending, upgrade, buy you a house instead of renting a room, buy you a house because some cities, some states in America, you can buy a house for less than $1,000 a month, where you will be renting that same house for $1,300 a month. So you could save money owning something. See what I'm saying? And that could build towards something else because if you're making this much extra money, if you still have your job and you have this stock option, you could use the stock option to express pay off the house, which allows you to not owe anything on the house until you need something. Now you have 100% equity in the house. You could take out 50% of the value of the house, go buy you a brand new car, and have the stock portfolio pay for the house. You still don't have a car note. You don't have maintenance that you got to deal with because it's worked into the warranty. I mean, there's certain things that can change once you start building assets. But it requires you to stop thinking like a broke person and living from check to check, talking about some YOLO, and start talking about building tomorrow today. If I had $1 million, I would still look like a poor person. It doesn't take a lot to please me. I would just not work and travel. That would be the only change. That's exactly what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. With $1 million, I might buy me one of those Res Bonnie tanks, but again, I might not. I might actually just go and get me one of those bulletproof Lexuses with the police lights on it and just call it a day. And have me a car bought and paid for. That's like anti-ice proof so that they can't kill me in my car when I'm trying to go home, like they did that woman in Memphis. I might do some shit like that. And then, just live modest. Live modest. You don't have to have expensive clothes on a day-to-day basis. You don't have to have expensive shoes, and gold chains around your neck, and a $50,000 watch and all this other stuff. Because the broke-minded women will look at the jewelry and the clothes and think, "Oh, he's got money because he wasted money on this." But the truth of the matter is that if he's got $30,000 around his neck, that's $30,000 he threw away. And what kind of man would you want to date and or marry if he's got more money around his neck than what he's got in his bank account? Any man that's got more stuff than he's got money is broke as fuck. So if he got a Lambo, a G Wagon, a Lexus, a Ferrari, a Maserati, a Mercedes Benz, and he's in a apartment, not a condo. He's in an apartment in a mid to low income neighborhood. He broke as fuck. He spent all his money on his car. He's car rich. And most of his money's going into his gas tank and his car note and high ass car insurance. He ain't got enough money to take care of you because he's spending all his money on his car because women like to ride in a car. He doesn't sleep with women because he has an expensive car. And guys with jewelry do the same thing. Women like, oh, he's got the gaudy jewelry. He might let me wear his chain. So because you get to wear it till he takes it back, he gets to sleep with you. These logics makes absolutely no sense. Y'all can make your own fucking money. He said the goal is to be the owner. Let everyone else go to work and live on your extra money. Damn right. Own all your shit. Oh, and then put it all into your LLC. Put your LLC into a trust and put your trust into a trust that is an offshore, non-residential, irrevocable, thrift spending. Come on now. We got a big daddy trust that you're supposed to have put all your assets with you. They can't come and get it from over here. They got to fly over there and go. They got to fly overseas and go and get it. You know what I mean? But when you're making that kind of money, when you got $250,000, $500,000, and you're trying to set up the next generation, this isn't just taking care of yourself. You're trying to set up the next generation. You got kids, you're trying to set up something for your kids. You're going to start relocating, reallocating this capital into investment portfolios that your kids can have. Put the money into Schedule K and into a trust, and then have that trust designed that after your kid reaches a certain age, that he or she will reach or receive X quantity of dollars. You might put all of your assets into the trust with the Schedule K, and then have it set up where the Schedule K pays taxes on its own, and then the stuff in the trust will funnel to you, and then you put your kids on as a beneficiary, and then it'll funnel them. And they'll just keep getting money until they you know lose all their money, or whatever. But the best type of trust to build is the type of trust that builds itself. So if you have a trust that's generating 15, 20% interest, and you're going to take out of that 20% interest, uh 5 or 7% out and distribute it to the beneficiaries and reinvest the rest of it, you're guaranteeing that the trust will grow, which guarantees that the beneficiaries will always have capital. And if you add a life insurance policy as a beneficiary to the trust, where if the person who's on the trust dies, the life insurance policy goes straight into the trust, goes straight into the investment portfolio, it will spike the investment portfolio to a magnitude where that 7% off of a $500,000, $1 million life insurance policy, that 7% would start spiking $70,000 or more, where when you start dividing that across 2 or 3 people, each person's getting almost $10,000 a month for the rest of their life. Your second and third generation kids start being set up. Spend all your kids. I give it to my dog. I outlived my dog. I was gonna have my dog as the heir of my estate, but I outlived my dog. So I'll have to get another one that has a 15-year lifespan and make that one the heir of my estate. Now, we've been talking about a Herculean task of investing $1,500 a month, but for many people, especially those owning closer to $40,000, that number is so out of reach. So, should they give up on it? Absolutely not. The biggest mistake is thinking if I can't invest 1,500 a month, it is not worth investing at all. That is a destructive lie. So let's scale back for our 40,000 a year earner. We calculated that they might even make about $640 each month of discretionary spending. So if they decided to invest only $400 a month of their money, that's a new goal. That's doable for even broke people. $400 a month investing in high interest stock options. It is still over 14% of their take home pay, and it is a fantastic savings rate, but it's not impossible to do it all. It leaves you a $240 buffer for small emergencies. Now, what does that path look like? Well, let's have the same strategy of return assumptions. If our investment contribution 400 a month over 10 years at 9% return, they will have roughly about $76,000. And if they did it at 12%, they have about $92,000. And if they did it at the higher interest rates between 15 and 18% interest, you'd be looking at well over $120,000, $130,000. After a decade, they would have a portfolio closing in on a six figure. For someone earning 40,000 a year, a $92,000 asset that they built from scratch is a game changer because it represents more than 2 years of their gross salary working for them 24/7. And that portfolio could be adding hundreds of extra dollars to their income each month. This is why starting is more important than the amount that you start with. Compounding needs time to work. So a person who has invested $400 a month for 20 years will have far more wealth than a person who waits 10 years to start because they couldn't hit some perfect number. Here's a practical plan to start at a more realistic level. Step one, you want to track your spending. Be your own financial drill sergeant. Track every dollar for 2 months. See where your money is really going. Then, step two, you want to pick your targets based on your budget. Choose a realistic but challenging monthly investment amount. Maybe it's $200, maybe it's $500, but consistency is everything. You want to be able to make sure that whatever amount you agree to, that's the amount that you stick with. Make saving money fun. I collect star notes. Okay, that's a good idea. Definitely making investing fun, but doing it with dividends, you actually get that enjoyment every 30 days because when you put money up, as soon as the ex dividend hits, you start getting returns on the payout date. So if you invest in January, you're going to get notifications in February of payouts from January. If you had invested in December, you're getting notifications in January of payouts from December. So you see this month that you're getting money back from stock investments from last year, right? And that is going to be more satisfactory for a person living from paycheck to paycheck than it would be to buy into something that you have to wait 30 years for success to occur. Now, step three, if you open up a brokerage account, you have Stash App, you have Acorn, you have TD Ameritrade. There's all kinds of places that you can go. Simple ability to take 15 minutes online, look for a low fee or no fee, something like Fidelity, Vanguard, Charles Schwab's, or like I said before, Stash App, Acorn, or TG Ameritrade. Stash App has annual payment plan, which is like $3 a month. So you put up like $120 and you're good. 120, $160 and you're good. You don't have to worry about it. It's done. And then the rest of the year, you're golden, right? You don't even have to worry about monthly fees. You don't have to worry about the multiple transactions. But the return that you get on your investment is larger than the monthly service fees that you use. That's the benefit. And some of the stuff, depending on your LLC and your C corporation statuses, when you claim this stuff on your taxation, you start seeing deductions. Step four, you want to choose your buckets. Do your own research. Don't just blindly buy the tickers mentioned, because I'm going to mention, I got a bunch of tickers across the bottom of the screen. You don't got to take those for a grain of salt. I got a whole nother list right here. You don't have to take those for a grain of salt. But if you write down all of the ones that you see on the show, and then you go back and do your research on them, you can grab some of the ones that you like. You can grab, because I got a lot of the ones that are under $25 a share, under $10 a share. I've got a lot of them that are dividend stocks. I got a few that are over $100 a share that are growth dividend stocks. I got some like Tesla that are growth stocks. I got some that have high potential because of the TikTok deal on the 22nd of January, like Oracle. Um, we've got oil stocks like Chevron and Exxon that's going to benefit from Venezuela being attacked. We've got a lot of stuff up here that upward of 55 stocks that you can grab. And if you sifted through them and found out which ones that you were satisfied with, you would find yourself being able to say, okay, well, I'm going to take this 10 or 15 and I'm going to run with this for a while and see what it does. That's the way you do it. Do your research and then uh, uh, make the best decisions that's going to benefit you, right? Now, for a bucket A list, if you look into BDCs and MREITs, you understand that you're going to be doing good with these as high dividend generators to get things started with. Then for your bucket B, you want to look for solid dividend growth stocks or a dividend focused ETF like Schwab, or it's called SCHD for the diversification, unless you're trying to just grab you an S&P 500. Then you want to automate everything. You want to set up an automatic transfer from your bank to your brokerage account the day after you get paid. That way you pay yourself first. Then you set your account to automatically reinvest all the dividends into the ones that you're going to do the drip with. So you have your bucket A list where your high interest accounts, you're going to put that into your portfolios. Then you're going to have the dividends from those go back into your stock portfolio. Then you're going to have your stock portfolio automatically take for the B list, reinvest everything there, but you're still going to have some capital that's not automatically reinvested. That's the capital that you will then deliberately put into your B list when the market is down. When shares go down, you buy in so that you have more shares. When the shares are up, you're good to go. And one of the things we've said before with the dividend rotation strategy is that if you allow your dividends to come in from last month, and instead of taking a few dollars from each one of the returns and put it in a few different places, you can make one big purchase to the one share that you see is down for the month and increase that one by a large quantity instead of just a little bit at a time for each one of them. Step six, you still want to live your life. You still have to make sacrifices, maybe not extreme $1,500 a month sacrifices, but you will be disciplined. You have to be. And then say no to things that you want for now so that your future that you desire is greater later. Now, this journey isn't about being perfect from day one, it's about starting. So if you started with $100 a month, it's infinitely better than starting with zero. The sacrifices we've talked about are immense, and I know that many of you have your own stories of financial struggles and innovation. Jolin was talking about how he was still paying off his truck. He's got like a month and a half left to pay off the truck. So that means that by the end of March, he's going to have an extra $1,000 a month for his current standard of living. He would be able to put that $1,000 a month away, which is $12,000 a year. And if he put that into 18% return interest or 15%, 12% more of a stable scenario, that $1,000 is going to be getting him back $120 annually on his investment. But as that compounds, that $12,000 might turn into 120,000 in 10 years. And that 12% might actually add an extra twelve or $20,000 to his $120,000, puts him at $130,000 in 10 years. And he's in his 40s right now. his standard of living is covered by 50% of his income right now. And in 10 years, he'd be making more money off of the stock portfolio than what he needs to live off of right now. Which also means that when both of his broken feet and all of his shattered knees and splits and ankles and broken backs and fractured necks all start coming into aches and pains that prevents him from having to go to work anymore, he will have the full capability to say, fuck this job. I'm staying home because you're making more money than you need to live. But likewise, though, if he could stay in the mix for another 15 years, stay in the mix for another 20 years, putting that $1,000 away that he's now putting on his truck note, if he put that $1,000 away in 20 years, he'd have well over $750,000 plus interest, which could put him over $400,000 in 20 years. And again, getting that 12% return back, he'd be getting over $48,000 a year, which is more than what he would need to cover standard of living, which again means he could quit his job. See what I'm saying? And he can retire. So if he's in his 40s right now, feeling like crap, and he can hang in there for 20 years, and in 62, he can quit his job and know that as long as his house doesn't burn down, that he's good for the next 25 years. As long as catastrophic disaster doesn't happen, he knows that at 65, he's good for 25 years. He would have taken the last 20 years of his midlife to make sure that the next 20 or 30 years of his future is set in stone, satisfactory, no fear, no stress. The sacrifices that we talked about are very immense. And I know many of you have your own stories, like I said before. But I want you guys to tell me what your stories are. Because just like Michael's story is 71 years old, he could do this for 5 or 10. But I mean, at 71 years old, by 90, if he could quit working, if he hasn't already quit working, you know what I mean? If he started at 70 and he did 5 or 7, by 80, he would have more money coming in than what he's got right now, and he would have the ability to do whatever he wants. But if he's already got the ability to do whatever he wants, if he's got his 401k, his Roth IRAs, whatever he doesn't need, he can invest it somewhere else to give him more money that in 5 or 7 years he would have more capabilities to do more stuff. So make sure that you guys get into the comment section and share the single biggest sacrifices that you've made to save money, or one frugal hack that you swear by. Let's be creative. Okay. We want to create a community of realists who understand what it takes and can learn from each other, because your story might be the inspiration someone else needs to get started. So, is investing 1,500 a month on a low income almost impossible? Of course it is. The math is punishing, and the lifestyle requires a form of self-imposed, uh, authentic behavior that is crucial to your success. And it's a level of discipline. It's a level of virtue that few can tolerate, especially for decades when they have a choice to do otherwise. More people will recognize that the more it takes to see real results, the harder it is for people to do. But we've also seen that it's not truly impossible, though, because more importantly, the principles are scalable. The core lesson isn't that you must invest $1,500 a month, it is that the system isn't designed for you to get ahead if you're trying to take everything you have and put it into next year. So you have to build your own system, because that system isn't designed for you. 1,500 a month isn't designed for a $40,000 a year income. 1,500 a month is designed for a $75,000 a year income. $250 a month might be better for a $400 a month income, or 400 or $500 a month might be better for a $400 a month income. You got to build your own system. You do that by taking radical ownership of your finances, and rejecting a culture that tells you to spend money that you don't have to build clout or keep up with the Joneses, and embarrassing a, a, a scenario where you're out there just coining up to make yourself look better for people around you. You need to instead embrace a period of discomfort for a better future. Because whether your number is 1,500 or 150, the act of taking control, building a plan, executing it month after month is what creates a real change. So this isn't a story of easy wealth. It's a story of grit. The same grit that you get from breaking bricks for 20 years, the same grit that you get from uh, uh, building HVAC systems in the attic for 20 years, the same grit that you get from climbing electrical poles for 20 years, the same grit that you get from taking orders at a Waffle House for 25 or 30 years, the same grit that you get from working that same 9 to 5 job, that same 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. job every day, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, called in on your day off, double overtime scenario for 20 years. It's the same grit. The only difference is it's going to be about trading present comfort for future freedom so that eventually you have future freedom. It's hard and it's going to be lonely and it takes a very, very long time. But at the end of the road, it's just a pile of money that you can't take with you when you die. But it is also independence, it's security, and it's a quiet confidence of knowing that you built a better future for yourself against all odds. And that is something that no one can ever take away from you. You can take that to your grave, and you probably will, because you'll probably be the only person that knows about it. Because if you're smart about it, you're not going to tell anybody about the money that you have in the bank. Whatever you have, you should be talking about less than 5% of it. So you got $250,000. I only got $5. You're a millionaire. I only got access to 10,000. And that's my emergency fund. You don't brag with stacks of cash pressed up against your face like you got money. You know what I mean? You're not sitting there like showboating on social media about the fact that you have money. Your goal is to have your money make money for you so that you don't need any money. And then your mission in life is to utilize the money that you make so that you don't have any stress in your life. You vacation, like Steven said, quit your job, stay consistent with what you've already been used to. You might want to upgrade a little bit, get some new furniture here and there, buy yourself some new clothes here and there, get you a car that doesn't need you to work on it. Maybe go from renting from your landlord, even though you got a good landlord, if they sell the property, you can still get put out. You might go from renting to owning, but that's about it. If you're living a $40,000 a year lifestyle and you make yourself a $500,000 man, you can go from a $40,000 a year lifestyle to a $60,000 a year lifestyle where you're owning your own house. But the money that you're making off of that type of portfolio is more than 60,000 a year, which means that the difference that you don't need, you can travel with or reinvest it into the principal to have the principal grow, whichever one you decide. Because one of the best parts about this particular ideology is that in 10 to 15 years, you have more options than what you have today. Today, your only option is what you have left over from your paycheck versus what you have on your availability on your credit limits versus what you can ask for from your friends and your family and your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your kids versus what your credit score will allow you to borrow. That's the only options that you have. When you build up this type of portfolio, like I've been talking about for the last 2.5 hours, you would have the capabilities of finding other ways because you can leverage your portfolio to make a big purchase and then have your portfolio pay for the purchase. You can leverage your portfolio to pay for the house, own the house, have the portfolio pay for the loan for the house where there isn't a mortgage on the house. And that means that if you have a financial need, you can get a mortgage on the house. And if you got the mortgage on the house to take care of that financial need, if your portfolio is more than what you needed to do what you had to do, you're getting 70, 80,000 a year, but you're paying your portfolio back 10 to 15,000. If you ended up taking out a mortgage on your house because of an emergency, you'd be paying 20 to 50,000. You still have 10 extra thousand to reinvest back in, but you don't need for nothing. You have to make sure that your standard of living is incorporated into the return on investment. And then you also have to make sure that before you make a big purchase, that you have 3 to 10 times more capital lying around than that purchase. So just because you have $500,000 in stocks doesn't mean you go buy a $500,000 car. You have $500,000 in stocks, that means you go buy you a $10,000 car. You have $500,000 in stocks, you might buy you a $20,000 car cash up front. But you can actually with the $500,000 car with a $500,000 stock option, you can get $20,000 worth of dividends and go and buy the car. So you don't have to finance it. But because you have the green title on a brand new car, instead of mortgaging the house, you can take a title loan out on the car for 50% of the value of the car. These are ways where you can utilize your assets to benefit you. Because how do you fix that title loan scenario? Mortgage the house and pay on the title loan. If you got an LLC, you should have good credit by now. If you got a $500,000 worth of asset, you own a house, you got a brand new car, SBA loan, 50 grand. There are ways when you have money. There are ways when you have stuff that you can leverage towards a deal. But when the best that you can do is go to an AmScot or a cash advance or a payday loan scenario, and you got to pay them back, or God forbid, they garnish your paycheck directly out of your bank account. Yeah, I mean, you ain't got shit. You ain't got a pot, neither a window. And that's not good for you. You're always living a life of stress, hypervigilance. You can't get off from work early because you need the money. You can't take extra days off because you need the money. You're going to work on your days off, on call, hanging around the job just in case somebody doesn't show up because you need the money. You can't go to the doctor because you can't afford to get a doctor's note that says that you can't go to work because you can't afford to miss any extra days because you need the money. Guess what? As parents, you can't do anything with your kids because you got to go to work. You can't enjoy after school specials because you got to go to work. You can't be there for their talent show or their sporting event because you got to go to work. You cannot teach them all the things that you wish you were taught when you were growing up because you got to go to work. Society teaches them, and it's never what you wanted them to learn because you had to go to work. You did the best that you could because you had to go to work. I want you guys to rewatch today's show. Really. Because if you making 40,000, 30,000, 50,000, there's a way that y'all can be putting y'all money in places where y'all money can make money for you, where y'all don't have to work as hard. Y'all don't have to take up so much time away from your family and your friends. Y'all can really put your time and your energy and your money in places where your money is making money for you. With that being said, I want to thank y'all for coming to this and that. But before we go, I want to say, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. I give you guys this information to make you guys higher value men because if you find the things in your life that you do not like, that you want to change, that's inside of your control, you can put effort into changing that. And then the things that you have no control over, you can navigate around. And ladies, this information is straight to the point because y'all can literally take this information and make yourselves higher value women, but y'all just have to focus on what is in your best interest, not the unrealistic expectations of personal gratification off the backs of somebody else. Find out how you can make you better and then find somebody else that has the same mentality so that y'all can come together and be better together. Because later this week, we're going to be telling you guys how two of y'all can come through and make this work. Definitely, Steven. I really appreciate you hanging out for the long haul. People are here for 2.5 hours. I want a special shout out to Steven. I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. Y'all have a good night.
That's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.